What the city is talking about.
The news that impacts you.
Welcome to the Montreal Now podcast
with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Welcome to the week that was here on the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and this week we'll take a look at these stories. A decision to close Montreal's iconic drive over and through Mount Royal, the mountain that divides the city in half, has now divided citizens in half as well, after the mayor, Valérie Plante, introduced a plan that will in fact prevent motorists from driving through Mount Royal. We talked to a local city councillor here, and well, let's just say it's a little contentious.
Yeah, that's an understatement. Listen, kids are back in school. COVID cases are expected to go up. Some health facilities are bringing back mask mandates too. So it was very timely that Health Canada announced this week an updated COVID-19 vaccine from Moderna has been approved. It'll roll out this fall. What do we need to know? We asked Dr. CHRISTOPHER Labos, and we also spoke to a Montrealer who has long COVID and is finding it incredibly frustrating to get treatment. And have you heard about the One Chip Challenge? It was in the news this week after a teen sadly died while attempting it. So Dr. Joe Schwartz wanted to talk about that and yet another recall on energy drinks in Canada.
Well, we start with this. Earlier in the week, Prime Minister Trudeau finally gave small businesses what they had been asking for quite some time, especially those businesses that had received a Canada Emergency Business Assistance loan. They'd asked for deadlines to be extended beyond the end of December 2023, a plan that would have allowed them to keep up to $20,000 as forgivable. But it turns out, unless you paid attention to the government's actual extension, you may be breathing a little too easy when you shouldn't be. We began speaking to Dan Kelly from Canada's Federation of Independent Businesses to explain.
It is good news that the government finally budged on extending the CEBA loan, but sadly they changed the wrong deadline. They've allowed business owners now ultimately an additional year to 2026 to repay any outstanding debt. That's helpful, but the deadline that everybody's been panicking about is the one that's coming up on December 31st, 2023, about 3 or 4 months from now. On that date, if you haven't had your CEBA loan repaid, you lose out on the $20,000 forgivable part. That's the part that business owners are panicking about.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because I completely misunderstood this. Okay. I assumed that was the deadline that had been extended. That's what people have been asking for.
That's exactly right. And this is why business owners are incredibly angry when they found out the fine print.
So can you explain it one more time, what it does and doesn't extend?
Yeah, look, the worry is that there's 2 dates here. You have, if you've taken out one of these CEBA loans, most business owners took out a $60,000 loan. They're required to repay $40,000. If they can do that by the end of this year, they get to keep $20,000. So they repay $40,000 on their $60,000 loan, and it's cleared. Unfortunately, what the government did is they announced that they did delay that deadline, which was supposed to be the end of December, but they've delayed it to January 18th, 2024. They've given you 18 extra days
to
repay that loan. The Prime Minister, though, to the point that you're talking about, the confusion, the Prime Minister's announcement made every business owner, and I'd say most journalists, understand that the CEBA deadline that I'm talking about was the one that was delayed by a year, and in fact, that isn't the deadline that was delayed. If you don't repay the loan by the end of this year, it doesn't go away, but you end up having to repay all $60,000. They're going to give you an extra year for that. But again, it totally misses the mark. I believe the government created this sense of confusion deliberately to try to quell the unhappy Liberal MPs.
So you literally just answered my question, because I was like, is this a terrible mistake? Did they get confused trying to make things better and have actually made things worse? But you think it was actually deliberate in that they're trying to make it look like they're making it look good.
A government communications officer always wants to make sure that the announcement sounds the best possible, regardless of what the content is. And sadly, look, it's technically true what the Prime Minister said. Unfortunately, it's not the deadline that business owners are focused on in any way, shape, or form. They've delayed that by 18 days. So we have 97,000 members at CFIB. Our phones have been ringing off the hook. My texts are coming in fast and furious from business owners that say, wait a minute, are you telling me that what the Prime Minister said yesterday is not the deadline that I'm worried about? And I've had to say no. And the government, of course, the detailed release actually outlines exactly what I'm saying. There's more information on our website, cfib.ca, if you've got confused listeners that are trying to sort this out.
Confused listeners. We're confused hosts right now as to what actually is
Can this
happening
be
here.
fixed, Dan? What can be done about this?
Yes. Well, look, this is why I've already talked to 2 cabinet ministers, several MPs. The MPs, I think, clearly have been sold a bill of goods here. But what we're trying to do is get that first deadline delayed from January 18th to the end of next year. So if they did that, if they moved that deadline and gave business owners till the end of 2024 to repay the $40,000 and still keep that forgivable chunk, then we'd be talking. That would be a good announcement. Unfortunately, that wasn't the announcement that the Prime Minister made yesterday.
You know, it's interesting as you say this. I think back to not that long ago, and I know businesses have been asking the government to address this as the end of the year gets closer and closer. I seem to remember Chrystia Freeland saying this wasn't going to happen, and of course she also puts it in context saying, well, you know, this should have been paid back by the end of 2022. We've already extended it a year to 2023. So how hopeful can you be that it would actually now get extended again after the government seemed to imply, no, that's not going to happen?
Well, look, they've said that this wasn't going to happen for 6 months until we got every Liberal MP to start freaking out about this. That was very helpful. Liberal members of Parliament, as has been widely reported, are a little unhappy right now with some of the government policies. That's why in London, Ontario, at their caucus meeting, they made this series of announcements they did. I believe that when Liberal MPs find out that this announcement isn't as good as was reported, they're going to be even more upset, like small business owners right now. And that's my hope, that will cause the government to reconsider. We have a fall economic statement coming up. I've already asked the government to make that change to the end of 2024. It's going to be a gamble, though, and I need every small business owner in the country to contact their member of Parliament to say this isn't good enough. You got to go back and do a redo of this announcement.
Just as we wrap up, I did want you, if you could, just one more time for people listening who might have been caught off guard, as I think we both were at the outset, that money you borrowed in your Canada Emergency Business account still will have to be paid back. So what do we say now, January 18th? That's the deadline now?
Yes, that's the deadline to repay the $40,000 if you want to keep the forgivable chunk. If you're unable to do that, you do have till the end of 2026 to repay the loan. But now your loan is not $40,000.
It's 60.
It's 60. It's nonsensical. Okay, so the website again is cfib.ca.
Dan, I want to thank you for the time and the insight. It's going to be interesting for a lot of people digesting this information now based on what they thought they heard yesterday. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Anytime at all.
Informative,
Interactive,
and always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Listen, kids are back in school. COVID cases are expected to go up. Some health facilities are bringing back mask mandates too. So it was very timely that Health Canada announced this week an updated COVID-19 vaccine from Moderna has been approved. It'll roll out this fall. What do we need to know? We asked Dr. CHRISTOPHER Labos, and we also spoke to a Montrealer who has long COVID and is finding it incredibly frustrating to get treatment.
Canada's Public Health Director, Theresa Tam, announced that we have a new COVID vaccine. This is to deal with the more recent strains. It is going to be made available by Moderna, and it's going to be available across the board from what I can tell. Dr. Chris Labos, by the way, is on the line. Chris, they're saying anyone over the age of 5 will be able to get this vaccine. Fill in the blanks for us, would you?
Right. So, I mean, this was the vaccine that we've sort of been expecting this for a while. So there's nothing inherently surprising about this. This is Health Canada having reviewed Moderna's data. The review of the Pfizer data is going to be coming fairly soon. It's very likely for us to expect that come next month, when the vaccines are likely going to be ready and rolled out, we will have, as we've had before, both Pfizer and Moderna producing these vaccines. And these vaccines will likely be part of the fall rollout in conjunction with the flu vaccine. So in some respects, there's nothing really new here. This is just sort of the official confirmation of what we expected Health Canada to do, which is to approve the vaccines. It can get a little bit confusing for people because I think a lot of people at home are like, wait, didn't we do this already? There's different government organizations that do different things. You have NACI, the National Advisory Committee on Immunizations, that gives guidelines on who should get vaccinated. You have Health Canada that approves the vaccines, and then ultimately every province decides how they are going to administer the vaccines, whether it's going to be covered, if you're going to be getting them at pharmacies, vaccination clinics, or what have you. So there's many different parts of government that do slightly different, albeit interconnected things. But the Cliff Notes version is the vaccine has been approved. We were expecting it to be approved, and so it will be part of the fall rollout. And we're just waiting for the government to give the official word on the when, where, and how.
Okay, so it's happening, but will people actually go get it? Dr. Labos, what do you think?
Well, we will see. The big factor that's going to determine whether people get vaccinated or not is how easy you make it. Most people are not anti-vaccine. Most people will get vaccinated. They just, want clear guidance from the government. So if the government says the vaccine is free for everyone, these are the high-risk groups. These are the people for whom it's most important, but the vaccine is free for everyone. I think you will see most people go out and get it. If you make the vaccine clinics, if you bring them out into the community, that was the big lesson that we saw during the pandemic, which is if you have pop-up clinics, if you put them in convenient locations, shopping malls, if you have them available in pharmacies, places where people normally go, they will get it done. And especially if you make it part of the flu vaccine rollout, which is it's fall, come get your flu vaccine, your COVID vaccine. If you're eligible to get your pneumonia vaccine, right, that's the other vaccine that we give to people over the age of 65, and also the RSV vaccine for people over the age of 60. So if you package the messaging in such a way that this is one of the things that you have to do to stay safe when we have a lot of circulating respiratory viruses, I think people will go out and do it. And if you can make it so that everybody can get it in one location, that's a lot easier than having to make multiple different appointments for multiple different things. And also the announcement that CJAD made, I think it was a week ago now, about how they're going to be offering other services at the vaccination clinics. That's all about convenience and making it so that when you go for your blood test, you'll get your vaccines as well. So it's all about that convenience factor, and that's what makes the biggest difference about whether people go out and get vaccinated.
So, Chris, just as a final question, because I want to get to our next guest, the idea is whether you've had vaccines in the past or not, this is a whole new ballgame here. For a different variant, you should go and get your vaccine. Is that the basic bottom line?
It really is. I mean, this is a different variant. This is a different vaccine. This is different from what came before. So in the same way that you get a different flu shot every year, to a large extent, it's probably going to be a different COVID vaccine every year, depending on how the virus continues to change and mutate.
And even if you've had COVID?
So as long as it's been more than 6 months since your last vaccine or your last infection, you can get vaccinated. That is the guidelines from the Public Health Agency of Canada, because immunity wanes with time. Even if you had COVID months ago, it's not going to be as protective 6 to 12 months after.
Dr. Christopher Labos, cardiologist with a degree in epidemiology. Thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
By the way, you can hear him 8:10 Sunday mornings here on CJAD on Weekends with Ken. So that's one part of the COVID story, the fact that there is a new vaccine coming. The one thing that doesn't get talked a lot about still, and we've said this before, is long COVID. And our next guest, unfortunately, is someone dealing with that. His name is Mitch Lafone. He's 55. He was a high school teacher, music journalist, and he was fine up until he got COVID. And now he says he is at a level of pain he could not have ever imagined. Now he can't walk without a walker or crutches. He said he regularly passes out, and he needs his 83-year-old mother to pick him up off the floor on certain days. He is on the line. Mitch, thanks so much. Appreciate you being here with us this afternoon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, I mean, it's hard enough to hear what you're going through right now, and then it's worse to find out that in terms of trying to get treatment here, you've basically run into a brick wall, right?
A complete brick wall. And in fact, I had posted on my Twitter the letter that the government sent me, which basically just said, we got nothing, but hey, check our website every so often and maybe you'll find something eventually, which to me was just baffling that they would write a letter like that and trying to get help. Now, it's been a year. I got my PCR test on September 19th of 2022. It's been a year, and trying to get treatment in Quebec has been just impossible. I mean, I'm on the waiting list for a family doctor going on 4 years. I tried to get into different clinics. Ultimately, I'm getting my care in Ontario.
Really? I was just going to say, so my mom is a long hauler, Mitch, and it's been 3.5 years for her. And she too, at the beginning, had a really difficult time, but there seemed to have been a switch. And now she's getting access, and doctors are recommending sort of out-of-the-box treatments, like osteo and acupuncture and things like that. So are you at least now getting that in Ontario, what you're not able to get here?
Well, yeah. So in terms of osteo and acupuncture, that I've been able to get, of course, privately. In terms of neurologists and MRIs, I've had to go to Hawkesbury. They just, you can't get an appointment here. When I first called for an appointment in October of last year, I was told that they were booking for an ENT. I was told they were booking for early 2024.
Oh my goodness.
But what help is that going to do?
Yeah.
Or anybody, quite frankly.
You know, I will tell you, though, as I hear you describe this, the problem with that is you're trying all these things, as Natasha said, out of the box. We don't know what works and what doesn't work. There's a lot of sort of poking and experimenting going on, which has to be pretty frustrating, I would guess.
It's exceptionally frustrating. And what I find most frustrating is we have a long COVID clinic at the Jewish General. You would think that they would take in people like me and run us through the mill of different tests, create data sets, create empirical data, look at what works, try to find coincidences, and say, this guy has this lady has, but they're not. I mean, my experience was that they referred me to an ENT who then referred me back to the long COVID clinic, who then referred me back to the same ENT. And it's like, wait a minute, I mean, this is Groundhog's Day.
So you're right. And we hadn't mentioned that there is a long haul clinic at part of the Jewish Services, right? And you're saying that's done nothing for you. You're describing a situation where great to have a clinic, but if nothing comes to it, what are we bothering with here?
Well, exactly. You know, it took me 11 months to get into the clinic, and I had been referred to a infectious disease expert at the Jewish, who then referred me to an ENT, which I paid privately to see in March. He referred me back to the long COVID clinic, and they referred me back to the same doctor at the Jewish.
Yeah.
So,
no, it makes no sense at all. I mean, at some point, I hate to say it this way, I'm guessing you kind of lose hope here, although, you know, who knows, maybe one day just miraculously, you know, you'll snap out of this. Anyone give you any kind of indication what you're looking at here? Does anybody have any information to offer as far as this long COVID goes?
And hope.
There really isn't. I mean, I had one doctor in Hawkesbury who said there is a 20% chance of death. So it's like, well, okay, that's comforting. But otherwise, I get a lot of, well, you should try tea with crushed dandelions, or you should try this, or I get a lot of hokey pokey stuff.
Yeah.
But nobody has it'll take 2 years, you should do this, there's a surgery. There really isn't.
They don't know, right? They just, they simply don't know, Mitch.
They don't know. And like I said before, part of my problem is, how are you going to know if you're not doing the research, if you're not taking the people in and running them through batteries of tests and getting data and how are you supposed to know? I mean, my test at the Jewish General is that they waved a pen in front of my eyes and said, can you follow this?
Oh, good grief. Do you at least feel like you're being taken seriously, though? Because I know at the beginning, when long haulers started telling their stories, the medical field largely was dismissive of it and didn't see it as a real problem. Do you at least feel like you're being seen and heard and taken seriously?
Yes and no. So my private doctor that I'm using, that I have to pay for because I don't have a family doctor, she takes it exceptionally seriously. And she's doing the best, and she's doing research, and she said, hey, I read this article, and I read this, and she's trying. So yes, her. When I go to Hawkesbury at the hospital there, absolutely, I mean, that is one of the best hospitals you could hope for. When you get to the Quebec system and you look at the letter that Christian Dubé's office sent me, no. No. I mean, I don't know if you read the letter or if people have seen it, but they just went, yeah, we got nothing.
Yeah. Good luck. Keep checking back and maybe you'll find something. That's quite the answer.
Thanks for nothing.
Hey, Mitch, we're out of time. Look, I wish we had some answers. Maybe someone listening to this, dealing with something like it or knows someone who is, can let us know if there's any other kind of treatment you could consider, and we'd certainly pass that on if we get it. I wish you nothing but the best, and maybe we can check back with you in a while and see if things are getting better, or let us know if, in fact, they are. Would you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely can do.
Mitch, thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Informative,
Interactive,
and always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Have you heard about the One Chip Challenge? It was in the news this week after a teen sadly died while attempting it. So Dr.JOE Schwartz wanted to talk about that and yet another recall on energy drinks in Canada.
Time to check in with Dr.JOE Schwartz. He, of course, joins us every week to talk about different things going on in science. And he is also, of course, director of the Mcgill Office for Science and Society. And Joe, a couple of stories. One that I was not aware of. I read it this week and I thought, I can't believe they could actually market a product like this. It was something that went viral, something called the One Chip Challenge. Basically, one chip, like a potato chip. And the idea was it was so hot, they challenged you to be able to finish the whole thing. And now it's been pulled from the market. So let's start with that. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's made by a company called Paqui. And apparently that's the Aztec word for to be happy. Well, it turns out that a lot of people who have been taking these, they're actually tortilla chips, which are flavored with hot peppers, are not so happy. Indeed, there's a tragic story out of Worcester, Massachusetts, of a young 14-year-old boy, Harris Wollobah, who died after eating one of these chips. Now, there has been no confirmation that actually caused his death, but the parents are convinced that this is what happened. He ate the chip and went into cardiac arrest after. We'll see, how that turns out. But because of that, the company has recalled the product, and Canada also has said that this cannot be sold. But what a dumb product this is. And again, it took TikTok by storm. The idea of the Paqui challenge. What's the challenge? To eat one of these chips and see how long you can go after without drinking or eating anything. That is, how long it takes to burn your guts before you are going to do something about it. It's ridiculous. And the company itself, of course, has all kinds of warnings on the product. It says that it's not for children, it's not for teenagers, it's only for adults. Well, adults are not immune to this. We have all kinds of historical stories about people having terrible experiences with hot peppers. There are stories of a guy who was using some sandpaper and he scratched his fingers with it, and then he made himself some lunch with some hot peppers, and because his fingers had been scratched, the hot pepper got into his skin, and he had unbelievable pain in his hand. Then there was another story of someone who had been picking hot peppers and did a really unfortunate thing, put in contact lenses after, and you can imagine what that is like. And then there are, the stories of men who have handled hot peppers and then go to the bathroom and handle a rather important part of their anatomy, and that is a terrible burning sensation. I don't talk with experience.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the graphic, Joe.
Good to know. Good to know.
I have a question, though, Joe. It's not illegal to market a product like this, right?
It isn't. And, the hotness of peppers is judged by something called the Scoville scale. Mm-hmm. And the two peppers that are used in this Paqui product are just about off the scale. They're rated at millions of Scoville units. And this is just unbelievably hot. And this is, of course, why the police use hot pepper sprays to try to calm down protesters. It's also the active ingredient in something called bear spray, because if you're in the woods and you're being attacked by a bear, you want to do something about it. And turns out you spray this stuff at a bear and it stops him. Okay. So why this is allowed to be sold, it boggles the mind. And it's just one of these ridiculous challenges that you see on TikTok.
I'm curious about the actual, we know that our bodies can freak out over spicy food. Like with this kid in particular, I know we don't know what happened. We don't know if he had a pre-existing condition, but can it have such an extreme effect on you? Like it would make your heart beat faster? We know people sweat, they choke.
Yes, it is possible. You can have terrible reactions to capsaicin, which is the active ingredient. On the other hand, just to show that things have two sides, capsaicin is also the active ingredient in the cream that is used for the treatment of shingles. You put it on your skin, and it seems to neutralize a chemical called substance P, which is produced in the body and causes pain with shingles. So, it's one thing to have it in a pharmaceutical cream, but quite a different thing to put it into a tortilla chip and have, not only kids, but anyone else.
We should mention, Joe, the Canada Food Inspection Agency has now recalled this, so you will not be able to buy it in stores, at least in Canada. I know they've done the same in the U.S. But then I wanted to go into something else, and I joke sometimes that it's really handy to be on their mailing list. So much stuff is recalled on a regular basis in this country. It's incredible. But last week, something that's become so ubiquitous, energy drinks, right? There are so many different brands now. We had a couple pulled off the market in Canada.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've talked about this before when they pulled off the Prime energy drink because it contained 200 milligrams of caffeine instead of 180.
Right.
And now they've pulled off a bunch more. Some of them, again, because they exceed 180, and some because they didn't have French labeling. So they've pulled these. But what is really very interesting and irritating is that there is a product that contains more than 180 milligrams of caffeine, and it is allowed to be sold because it's regulated in a different fashion, and that's the energy shot. And you see these little bottles of energy shot at all dépanneurs and even gas stations, and you swig this, it's sort of like one quick swallow, and terribly high in caffeine. I mean, compared to what you would get in a coffee or in a soft drink. And it's supposed to give you energy. Well, what it does is it stimulates you because it has a high energy content of the caffeine. But it is allowed to be sold because it is regulated not as a food, but as a natural health product. And there, the laws are different. I've railed against natural health products before and the lack of regulation there. And here's just another case where you can actually go into a store and buy a product, which is really a beverage, it's just in a small bottle, which has defied the recall, even though it contains a higher amount of caffeine than in the products that were recalled.
So wait, I'm trying to understand. So this, and you see this all the time, these 4-hour energy drinks or whatever they call themselves. If you take one of these, you said it's like drinking a coffee, but I'm guessing because there's so little of it, I mean, it must be a jolt to your system, but that's perfectly okay.
Right. And they contain 200 and more than 200 milligrams of caffeine. And they are not subject to this recall in Canada because they are not a food or a beverage, but a natural health product. And that is under a different regulatory system.
What's the health benefit of a shot of caffeine, though? I don't understand. How is that a natural health product?
Well, good question. And there are many, many such questions that can be asked about the natural health products because they are essentially unregulated. And as long as it is something that is naturally occurring, you can claim that it is a natural health product.
Oh, good
and
grief.
Caffeine, of course, occurs naturally in beans, and you can claim that it is a natural product. Yeah, it is a very bizarre system, crazy. And we really need to have some weaponry to fight this.
Dr. Joe, I want to thank you for the time as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Informative.
Interactive.
And always interesting.
This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
A decision to close Montreal's iconic drive over and through Mount Royal, the mountain that divides the city in half, has now divided citizens in half as well, after the mayor, Valerie Plante, introduced a plan that will in fact prevent motorists from driving through Mount Royal. We talked to a local city councillor here, and well, let's just say it's a little contentious. So here's an update on our interview with Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante. We're not having Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante. So apparently she's running a little overtime today, and I'm sure doing a lot of media as well over that announcement from earlier this afternoon on Camille Wood. Alex Norris, Montreal City Councillor, is going to join us instead. Mr. Norris, we appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me on, Aaron.
So I will say for people who are just perhaps hearing this for the first time, the announcement earlier today basically means that if you are a motorist, you will no longer be able to drive across the mountain, through the mountain. Now, I think you should know when we started this and asked it as a question of our listeners, I don't think we got a single call from someone who thought this was a good idea. So, Mr. Norris, my first question should be, and maybe this is a bit of a generalization, it seems to me we're fixing a problem that doesn't exist. So why the announcement today? What does this solve exactly?
Well, it solves a whole lot of problems. Camille Wood Way is a really hostile environment for pedestrians and for cyclists. It is a scar that cuts through our most important central urban forest. It is dangerous for people who want to cross it, and it is used by commuters as a shortcut through the park. And here we have an opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to expand the park and solve those safety problems while acting to enhance and preserve one of the most biodiverse places on the entire island of Montreal. So I'm extremely excited about this plan, and I think that it will be embraced by Montrealers.
Well, I can tell you it's not being embraced by our listeners. I would also ask you why in 2019, that's only 4 short years ago, a public consultation undertaken by Projet Montreal said this was not a good idea. What changed between then and now?
Well, there are a bunch of things that I would say in response to that. One is that there were 16 recommendations in the public consultation report by the OCPM. One of them concerned vehicular traffic, but there were a whole bunch of other recommendations that called for more greenery, a safer environment for vulnerable users of the park, integrating the roadway into the park, and to the extent that vehicles were left on that route, that prevented us from attaining those other objectives. So, this solution is the one that best respects the largest number of recommendations in that report. But further, I would say, since that report, that was 5 years ago that there was the pilot project, and the world has changed since then. We've had a pandemic. The number of visitors to Mount Royal Park has exploded, as it has in parks throughout the city. And, there's been a continent-wide trend toward moving commuter traffic out of parks. It's not only in Montreal, New York City, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, many cities are moving in this direction. And we felt that this was a real opportunity to make a bold move to enlarge the park, increase the amount of green space in the park, make it safer for all visitors, and particularly the most vulnerable visitors, and to create a new attraction in the park. Camille Wood Lookout is kind of a dreary spot. It's basically a parking lot with a thin strip of a walkway where you can look out over the city. It's going to be transformed into something really quite beautiful. People wouldn't imagine driving cars up to the other lookout on Mount Royal, the Condirong Lookout. Did you know that there used to be cars there? If we were to bring cars there today, there would be an uproar. And we have an opportunity to create something really beautiful and that will attract more visitors to the parks. I'm convinced that this will be welcomed, as I said, by Montrealers. We're also going to be creating a new lookout looking north over Outremont toward the north end of the island, where you can see the sunset as well. So there will be a lot of new amenities. And when you walk on Olmsted Road on a weekend, it's crowded with people. We need new spaces for people to walk on the mountain, and this will provide a whole new, beautiful green pedestrian walkway all the way up the mountain.
I would just point out, with all due respect, the idea that other parks are doing the same thing. You mentioned New York and Washington. It's important, I think, to note those are street level parks. They're not they're not parks that cross mountains as Mount Royal is. So I'm not sure that's a fair comparison. But how?
I can give you another example.
Okay, I don't need another example. I want to ask you, how will people be able to get to this mountain? You talk about people who are not going to be able to take a car. How are they getting to the top of the lookout exactly?
Well, there are different ways. The plan is to improve bus service, and certainly the frequency of the number 11 bus route will be increased. The park will remain accessible to people arriving by automobile and by public transport, and people can also walk and bike. And it will be a fully universally accessible pathway. So, and we're looking at providing a service for people in wheelchairs, or people who have difficulty getting around on foot, so that this is accessible to everyone. The goal here is to give the mountain back to Montrealers rather than allowing this very dangerous high-speed roadway to continue slicing the mountain in two.
With all due respect, it's not a dangerous high-speed roadway. I'm guessing you've driven across it, as I have as well. There has been one serious accident. Let me ask you a question. What happens, and I posed this earlier on, the next time, let's say this plan goes into effect, and I know it's not happening today or tomorrow. I think 2027 is the outline, is it not?
2027, that's correct, because we want to maintain vehicular access to the mountain, and there's work being done on Remembrance Road. So we want to do it in phases.
Understood.
So that the mountain remains accessible to all users of the mountain, including those who arrive in vehicles.
I know Valerie Plante made an issue today and kind of pointing out the fact that environmentally this is a concern as well. That's part of the rationale for doing this.
Absolutely.
Someone asked the question, if that's the idea and that's part of what's going on here, why not let people who drive electric vehicles be able to go? They're not polluting that space.
Because electric vehicles can still kill and injure pedestrians, and the presence of vehicles on a pedestrian walkway really undermines the experience of pedestrians. Can you imagine if we had vehicles on Olmsted Road, how that would change the experience of pedestrians on Olmsted Road? It would be unthinkable. There would be an uproar. The goal here is to create another Olmsted Road, because Olmsted Road is crowded. We have to plan for the future of the city. We can't be. This is a project that will be here for the next 100 years, and we need to plan with that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
There are new transportation alternatives that are being built. There are going to be 2 new REM stations right near the mountain that will provide better access as well. There's a move toward greater use of public and active transport. And we know that maintaining a car-focused transport system is not only totally unsustainable environmentally, it is also just not viable in terms of public space. We don't have the space to put all those cars. It's not realistic to plan for a car-centered future of our city. We have to be pragmatic. We have to think about how people are going to get around in the future, and everyone driving their own private vehicle everywhere is just not in the cards. It is not viable.
So you're talking about the future for the city in general. Now, we've moved beyond the mountain. You just don't think that it's a good idea if we look down into the future to see that cars should be on the road at all. We're not going to be traveling that way in your estimation.
We have to move toward a less car-centered future.
How do we do that?
Well,
if public transit is limited, you've described this situation. You described this situation over the mountain, saying you'll improve service on the 11 bus. Who exactly is that going to help for the people who can't walk up that side of the mountain? Are they all supposed to take the bus?
Well, it'll improve things for public transport users, but it will the mountain will also, the heart of Mount Royal will also remain fully accessible by private vehicle. And I remind you, that there are parking lots that will be maintained at Smith House and at Beaver Lake. There are also underused parking lots all the way around the mountain. The Royal Victoria parking lot sits empty the vast majority of the time, is accessible to the public.
Sure.
And from there you can walk 15
near the
minutes
road.
And be at the Conduronk lookout.
Okay.
So,
Look,
we have to be more ambitious for Mount Royal, and accepting that we have a highway slicing through the mountain in this day and age is just a non-starter.
It's just a roadway,
it's dangerous,
not a highway.
It's hostile to pedestrians. It's hostile to cyclists. And we have an opportunity to expand the park. So I believe that, people will rally to this view, and this is the right way to be going.
We shall see. Mr. Norris.
I mentioned Gatineau Park. I think it is relevant because Gatineau Park there is also involves a very significant rise, and that is shut down to automobile traffic for the vast majority of the year, and all winter, and for all but 3 afternoons every summer. So it's handed over to cyclists and pedestrians. And
Understood.
That was one of our inspirations for this decision. It's been a huge success and very popular.
To be determined. Listen, I'd love to continue the conversation, but we're out of time. I very much appreciate you coming on with us today. Thank you so much. That wraps up another edition of The Week That Was here on the iHeartRadio Network. I'm Aaron Rand along with Natasha Hall, and we will see you next week.
Have a fantastic week.
This has been the Montreal Now podcast with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Listen live on your radio weekday afternoons from 2 to 6
on CJAD 800
or through the iHeartRadio app.